Good morning, everybody. It's Jen Budd, former senior patrol agent, immigrant rights activist longer than I was a patrol agent, author of Against the Wall right there. Um, this is Zoe. She's about 5 or 6. I'm going to do another video because I know so much about the rape culture, and I'm the one that brought the truth of the rape culture and the Border Patrol forward. How extensive is it? And so I went through and I created these cards. I used one of Border Patrol's advertisements of go beyond, find yourself in the Border Patrol kind of thing. And I used one of their own advertisements. We own those advertisements, just so you know, because they're made with American taxpayer dollars, so we can use that. Um, and then I, gave a synopsis of it and gave at least one citation of the sources that I used. There's a handful that I didn't put in there. Some of them were acquitted and the evidence was not great, or at least publicly great. I'm sure I could, if I wanted to go and maybe find the documents, I could find more that cost a lot of money. Additionally, what you need to know is states like Arizona, because they've had so many Border Patrol agents and other people. It's okay. And other people, I would say other law enforcement officers and important people come down with charges for pedophilia. They passed a law called, it's like 123, number 123. And what it basically allows them to do in Arizona is it allows them that if the victim is a minor under 18 years of age, then the court, everybody in the court, everybody involved with the case is supposed to keep it silent. Is supposed to not talk about it and not allow the press access to it. So we truly have no idea how bad it is. And you have to understand that the things I'm about to show you, number one, content warning. So if you're triggered by sexual violence in general, if you're specifically triggered by that violence against children, this is a trigger warning for you. You should turn this off and not watch this. I will not get into graphic detail, obviously. And these are only the cases from 2000 to now. I have a lot more cases prior to that, but I don't know that it really does us any good. And frankly, I just don't want to type all that and make all those. So, I mean, is it relevant? I suppose if you're going to write, a big book on it or something like that. I don't know that it does us any good, but I want to go through these. Let me fix my microphone here. I want to go through these and talk about them just a little bit, not in detail. The main reason why I want to do this, that I brought this back up, and I've done this for years. Like when a lot of reporters write their articles, they let me see them ahead of time. Not everybody, but a lot of them, because they want to make sure that they're not missing something. And I've kind of become this, I don't know what you would call it, like storage house of notes and evidence on Border Patrol, because I was afraid that if Trump got back in, then they would start, erasing things off the internet. So I spent the last 2 or 3 years like just grabbing everything I could grab and then organizing it. And that's many, many hours to do that. So a lot of times when reporters are doing deep dives, they'll say, "Hey, what do you got on this and this and this?" And I'll give it to them. And I do all that for free. I don't charge anybody because this is the public's information. Um, so I think I'm going to go through these. I was trying to figure out how's the best way to do this on Substack, because I'm not a media trained person. I'm just an activist trying to get my word out the best I can. I admit I'm not. I don't lend myself to television and maybe podcast and things like that, but I'm just, I'm doing the best I can do. Okay. So, let's get started. First slide is a content warning slide. It doesn't have anything on it. So you can watch this next slide, and then if you need to, then after that, you should probably, leave it to other people to do. Content warning. The following slides are of the Border Patrol agents accused of sexual crime since 2000. This is by no means a complete list, as the agency often hides the sexual assaults of female agents within equal employment opportunity complaints. So what happens when you're a female agent is because you are in a militarized organization and because you tend to be very new and you do not want to rock the boat and you really want your job and you just kind of think this is a one-off, you don't understand that the agency is systemically a rape culture, that they encourage it, that the men do not say honor first, which is the Border Patrol motto. They actually say on her first. And I have that corroborated by presidents of the union have come out and stated this. And I think you should know that when you're a female agent and you're the victim of this, the union doesn't represent you. They represent your abuser because that agent is being accused of a crime. So you don't have any legal help and you're required to go through this. Either you pay for an attorney on your own, which most can't afford, or you do it on your own. And the sad thing is after this happens to you, you're not mentally capable within your trauma to be acting like that. But also, Border Patrol agents do not have legal training like that. They should not be making those decisions on how, no, let's go forward with this. Let's not go forward with that. How should we file this? Should we file it with the union? Should we file it with the regular police? Should we file it with EEO? They push the female agents to, and there are male agent victims, they just don't come out. I've never seen one come out, but there are. So I say female agents. They push you towards equal employment opportunity. And basically, you go through an investigation. You'll have to come in. You might get tested and all this other stuff. If you tell them that you're receiving therapy, they might make you work with your rapist, which is what they did to me. And so mine is not in here, obviously. It's not in here because mine was in 1995. So there's a fair amount that aren't in here. And then it also fails to report or covers up the sexual assaults on migrants. The majority of sexual assaults that Border Patrol agents commit are against migrants and against migrant children. And then, as I said in the intro, some states require that the cases be kept secret if the victims are minors. And then at the same time, if the victims are migrants, they are often deported before they can even file a complaint. And according to Border Patrol and CBP's own statistics of how many employees they've had arrested, and they've been keeping these for hmm, uh, maybe a decade, um, not too long. It's part of their transparency thing. But the problem is they're not reporting everybody. So sometimes I'll have more for that year than they have. Sometimes they'll have more than I have. Um, and the problem with it is that if the agents end up getting out of it, meaning that the victims usually drop the charges, not that they're acquitted. There are some that are acquitted, not that many. But what happens most often is the victims have to drop the charges because they're deported, or there's no charges filed because the victim is a female agent, uh, or or you know they just disappear. The victims end up disappearing, or the prosecutors just drop the charges, stating that there wasn't enough, or the victims decide that they don't want to go forward. There's all sorts of reasons for that. The Border Patrol will put a lot of pressure, and you'll see that in these. I'll talk about it. They'll put a lot of pressure on the victims, especially if it's a female agent. and I can attest to this. So once this happens to you as a female agent, the only way that you stay in the green pack, the only way you stay part of the green family is if you shut up about it, like I did. If you take it and prove how tough you are. And this will follow you your entire career, as it did me, although mine was 6 years. It wasn't that long. But it will follow you your entire career, and they will base every promotion and every assignment off of that and how you handle that. That is how you prove. I've had a male agent in the last few years say to me, a very high-ranking union representatives tell me, the game of smiles, which is a rape game played in the Border Patrol, and the sexual assaults that they must go through is how they prove that they bleed green. Okay. When I was young, I thought it was a one-off, just like most women do, but it's not. And as you see here, just from 2022 to 2025, 421 Border Patrol agents were reported being arrested. Now, they require them to voluntarily report this. So how many domestics and how many sexual assaults and all this other stuff do you think aren't reported? A ton of them. So, and then for that time, they say that there were only 7 arrests for sex crimes. Yeah, okay. 16 of those were for child sex crimes. But this only, as far as what you can see in the media, what the media reports, it's only roughly about 10, 11. Sometimes I've seen on a good year 12% are covered. So what we're saying is 90% of what CBP reports is agents being arrested for sex crimes, whether against adults or children. Only 10% of the ones that CBP are actually reporting, which we know is an undercount, are actually covered by the media. So you're not even seeing 90% of what Border Patrol and CBP are reporting. That's how poor the media coverage is on all of this. So let's go forward to the first slide. This is the latest. Efren Lopez Cornejo. That happened January 2025. This case existed for, I want to say 3 to 4 years, quite a while. See, actually, you can see the criminal number on there says 2021. So it was in court for 4 years, and I did not even know about it. And I am the expert in this, or one of the experts in this. The other person who's an expert in this is Erin Siegel McIntyre. She's at the University of North Carolina. She's a professor there, assistant professor, and she's a journalist as well. And we'll talk about her work a little bit here in the future. When we look at some of these other ones, we'll talk about it. So Ephraim was the deputy commander of BORTAC. BORTAC is a SWAT team. These agents are considered to be the best of the best. These agents are considered to be what we call bleed green, meaning they will do absolutely anything for the Border Patrol. All these agents, by the way, are bleed green. If you're committing crimes and you're an agent, you're bleed green because you're using the system that the agency has set up to cover up for our own agents. And Tucson sector, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it is what I call the rapey sector. These guys are always raping, especially a lot of pedophile agents. It's just insane. So he was assigned to the Tucson sector. He was charged with 14 counts of molestation exposure to his daughter and stepdaughter. He did this for over 11 years. The 2 daughters did not know each other. They happened at separate times. They knew of each other. The mothers knew of each other as Ephraim went from one relationship to the other. And they decided to come forward now that they are young adult women. They're like 19, 20 years old now. And they decided that they were strong enough to come forward. And they are both mothers now, or soon to be mothers. And there are still children in Ephraim's grasp that were about the age when he started assaulting them. And so that is why they came forward. He had a trial and it ended up being a hung jury, but simply because the charge that the prosecution was charging him was with continuous. And the jury had a difficult time coming to a conclusion on the charge of continuous sexual assault or abuse of a child because he had done it to one child, and then when that relationship ended, he stopped and did it to another child. So they felt that because the victims had changed, it was not continuous behavior. So he was then allowed to plead guilty to only 2 counts, which the judge then decided and told him that he was a hero and had served his community well. And he wasn't sure if the girls were telling the truth, even though in the sentencing, both women came and pleaded with his judge not to let him out, not to consider this as a one-time offense. But that's not what the judge did. So he sentenced him to no jail time, lifetime probation, and he does not have to register as a sex offender. So he is probably in Tucson right now, possibly looking for his next victims. Arizona Superior Court, Pima County, CR 2021 1008-001. And just so you know, his BORTAC agents came and testified that they would trust their own children with him and that he would not abuse them. So this is what I mean when I say they put a lot of pressure on the victims, they put a lot of pressure on the jury, and they put a lot of pressure on the judge. Sometimes they'll come in uniform. It just depends on if the judge will allow it. This next guy is not too long ago. This happened in February 2024. Joel Martinez, or perhaps Joel Martinez. I'm not sure how he pronounces his first name. Deputy Chief of the Border Patrol. That means he's the second guy in charge in Washington, D.C. When he was warned by CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility that multiple female agents had made complaints against him in the Laredo sector when he was there before he went to Washington, D.C. The allegations were around sexual misconduct, so he retired. So this is what it looks like when high-ranking chiefs get caught doing this. At the time, the head of CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility Investigations has been for years a former Border Patrol agent known as Daniel Altman. And I've been pointing this out for the last couple of years, and he recently retired in April. He has succeeded in obfuscating and obstructing justice his entire time that he was there. He has made sure that the vast majority of agents that are acting as investigators of Border Patrol crimes are actually Border Patrol agents or former Border Patrol agents, I should say. And we did that back in the day in the old patrol when we were under INS and Department of Justice. We filled the internal affairs investigators with our own investigators. So the internal affairs systems within for Border Patrol, CBP, and ICE and DHS are all corrupt. They were made corrupt from the beginning after 9/11 in 2003. So back to Joel Martinez, Deputy Chief of the Border Patrol, he ended up retiring. So then that allows them to keep their pension. So what I'm saying is that the Border Patrol agents who are acting as internal affairs investigators warn these guys in upper management, warn the agents with over 20 years in, hey, you might want to think about retiring. We're about to levy a case against you. Once they retire, the investigation is stopped. No criminal charges are filed. This was reported by Julia Ainsley of MSNBC News. Another chief, exact same thing, Tony Barker Jr. He was chief at Washington, D.C. He was caught in January of 2023, once again by Julia Ainsley of NBC News. Same thing, warned by Daniel Altman, CBP, Office of Professional Responsibility Investigations. Multiple female agents made complaints saying that he was using his rank and demanding sexual favors. He retired and kept his pension. This is one I talk about a lot. Once again, out of Tucson sector, Dana R. Thornhill. He had 17 years in the Border Patrol. This happened, he was discovered in April 2020. I believe that was an ICE HSI investigation. They do a lot of those investigations of child predators on the computer, and that's how they located this man. But also they knew who he was because he was hired with a prior conviction of when he was 14 years old, he sexually assaulted a child, apparently. And but the agency still hired him because you can still get hired in the Border Patrol. So this is the thing about all this. One of the reasons why I did this was because these are the type of people that are in LA. These are the type of people that are kidnapping people. These are the people who are in your streets bringing the violence to you. And so when you see Secretary Noem up there saying, our agents are the most honorable in this, these are their agents. This is consistent with the U.S. Border Patrol. This is consistent with CBP. This is consistent with the hiring practices of ICE as well. I just happen to concentrate on the Border Patrol. So let's get back to Dana R. Thornhill. He ended up with these charges of child pornography because he was found to be distributing it on the internet. And he also, apparently, his daughters came forward when he was arrested and said, yes, he was sexually assaulting us all of our lives. He ended up trying to run from law enforcement, but then he finally gave himself up. But here's the kicker. He was assigned, so when George Bush took office, one of the things he did was he allowed Border Patrol to have chaplains. Now, they don't have imams and they don't have rabbis, just so you know. They have chaplains only. And they made this guy the chaplain. And as the chaplain, then you get more access to unaccompanied children and children in general. He was their chaplain and he worked there for 17 years. That's just insane. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Arizona Superior Court, Cochise County, J0205 IA 20200000147. Another Tucson agent, Supervisory Border Patrol agent, Tucson sector, August 2021, John Joseph Daly III. He actually, so he came through in the old patrol like I did. I think I want to say he came in 1998, somewhere around there. He started raping women in the Tucson area, including around Bisbee. He would wear a mask and he would talk with a Latino accent so they couldn't tell who he was. Yeah, some shit like that. And what happened was when he started raping, they actually had DNA because he took a drink from a water glass from one lady's house. So he would spend time with the victims and really torture them and sexually assault them. And then drink their water and eat their food. It was really gross. So the police there, I've seen the original police records. So they had that and then they announced it that they had his DNA. So this motherfucker, of course, made sure that he didn't leave any DNA after that. And it took over 20 years. So he was raping the whole time, made it to supervisory border patrol agent. God only knows how many migrants this guy did. He also has connection to a pedophile ring within Tucson sector. There was a pedophile ring of border patrol agents at this time. They did not find him until after he retired. So we're still paying for his pension while he's sitting there. It's still an ongoing case. It's taking forever. And I almost kind of think that they're probably screwing it up like they screw every other case up. probably get off with lifetime probation or something like that, like the other guy did. This is what's going on now. And I'm going to do another video that shows how judges are doing this, but I want to keep this just on Border Patrol agents committing sexual crimes. So he was accused of serial rape spanning over 20 years as a Border Patrol agent in the Tucson sector. This is Arizona Superior Court, Cochise County, CR 2021 00318. This agent is a Border Patrol agent, Raymond Marquez. This is also an allegation and has not been proven yet. This is the latest one. He was arrested just recently in May of 2025. He is in the Yuma sector out of Yuma, Arizona. And the way he gained access to his victims was he volunteered to be a Border Patrol High School Explorer mentor. This happens quite a bit in the United States Border Patrol. I can name at least 3 classmates who did that, and that's how they found their virgin wives, and they left their existing wives for these young girls. The Border Patrol has massive youth programs from kindergarten all the way to college. And these men know that they have access to your children. If you want your children not to be raped by Border Patrol agents, then I suggest you get them to hell out of your schools. He was charged with 14 counts of sexual acts with the Explorer Cadet while acting as a mentor for the U.S. Border Patrol. He bonded out, so he's out roaming around Yuma right now. It's ongoing. Arizona Superior Court, Yuma County, S-1400-CR-202-500-526. This is not too long ago. I think this case has been dropped because I have not been able to find a record of it, and it should already be in the database. He was arrested in January 2024. Edgar Fidel Garcia, Border Patrol agent, Laredo sector. He was charged with sexual assault of an intoxicated woman, and he bonded out. Like I said, no case has been filed with Webb County. The Webb County booking number is 202 4084. The Webb County warrant number that resulted in his arrest is 202-301-5360. He is presumed still an agent, and the charges obviously did not stick, so this assault is an alleged assault. Next is Jeremy Cole, another Tucson agent, August 2015. He's a regular Border Patrol agent. He was charged of sexual misconduct with a minor, and it was dropped. Pleaded guilty to kidnapping only. This was another agent's child he did this to. This happens quite often in the Border Patrol. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Arizona Superior Court, Maricopa County, S-0700-CR-2015 114329. When you see pictures like this where I have an agent and you can't see his face, it's because I have no picture. So these pictures are generic Wiki Commons pictures done by the Border Patrol. So they are public, available to the public, because this is what the Border Patrol puts out. Next guy, March of 2025. This is recent. Shane Millen. He's a Border Patrol agent out of Buffalo Sector, Jefferson County, New York, charged with 4 counts of deprivation of rights under color of law for requiring women to expose their breasts to stay in the country. This, by the way, has been a long-going thing. I'm not going to tell you the outlet who had the information on it during the first Trump administration. Do you remember when the first Trump administration, when Donald Trump started making Border Patrol agents asylum officers? An asylum officer requires a lot more education than a Border Patrol agent has, so that should never happen. They were doing this to women during that time as well, and the outlet had them stalking them on social media. They had all the proof, and they decided not to print it. So that happens a lot. It happens a lot where the media is like fully aware of what's going on, and then they just choose not to print it. He ended up pleading guilty to 2 charges. Sentencing is in July this year of 2025. U.S. District Court, Northern New York, 24-CR-00332-TWD. When you see initials on the end of a U.S. District Court like that, that typically is the judge's initials on that. Paul Casey Whipple, October 2024. Border Patrol agent out of El Paso sector, San Antonio, Texas. Charged with 10 counts of sexual exploitation of children/minors, production and distribution and possession of child pornography. So he's not just looking at child pornography, he's making child pornography and he's distributing child pornography. He pleaded guilty to 3 charges, sentenced to 50 years in prison. U.S. District Court, Western Texas, 18 CR 00013XR. Next up, Fernando Saucedo III, Border Patrol agent out of Big Bend sector, Presidio, Texas. Big Bend sector has a station out of Alpine, Texas. And I can't tell you how many of the wives and ex-girlfriends have called me from Alpine, Texas. Alpine, Texas has a lot of sexual predators in their Border Patrol station. And unfortunately in Texas, Texas agents a lot of times are hard to find because there's only like, I'm not searching so much the northern counties, but when I search the southern counties, the only 2 counties down on the border that allow you to search your records online is Webb County, that's Laredo, and Hidalgo County, that is Rio Grande Valley sector. And so the other ones make it so hard and you have to pay a fortune and everything. So once again, this is a huge undercount, even on my part. And I've found probably the most. Aaron Siegel McIntyre might have found more than me, but this is one of the most comprehensive lists. He's accused of sexually assaulting 2 sisters in his custody. One was a juvenile, and the other one was like 18 or 19. He did this when he searched them. Criminal charges never ended up being filed. The prosecutors said there wasn't enough evidence and refused to charge him with anything. But the Border Patrol settled a civil court case for $125,000. U.S. District Court, Western Texas, Pecos Division, 18 CV 00028 DC. He is presumed to still be an agent. Next up, Michael William Behrens, Supervisory Border Patrol agent out of Big Bend sector, Alpine, Texas, January 2020. Accused of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old stepchild over 20 times over the course of 5 years. He was arrested by Brewster County sheriffs and bonded out. Unknown disposition, cannot find the files online, and he is presumed to be still a supervisor. Joseph W. Giuliano, Deputy Chief Patrol Agent of Blaine Sector, Whatcom County, Washington, April 2009. You know, it's funny, when these things happen, a lot of times the agency will say, well, this agent doesn't represent the Border Patrol, but you see how many high-ranking agents are here. Agents with over 20 years in, chiefs, deputy chiefs. It extends through the whole, like all the way down to trainees. So when they say that this doesn't represent the Border Patrol, they're full of shit. This totally represents the Border Patrol. Deputy Chief Patrol Agent, Blaine Sector, Whatcom County, Washington, April 2009. Charged with 24 counts of child rape of a 14-year-old. Pleaded guilty to 3 counts. This 14-year-old was living in his home. She was either adopted in or a stepchild. I cannot remember. Spent 2.5 years in prison. Washington Superior Court, Whatcom County, 081-01373-4. My apologies for misspelling Washington. This is another agent I don't have a picture of. Micah Mardo, Border Patrol Agent, Blaine Sector, Sumas, Washington, January 2016. Charged with one count of enticement of a minor after wife found child pornography on his computer. U.S. District Court, Western District of Washington, Seattle, MJ-18-003 and CR 18-026 RSM. Case dismissed. No cause was ever given. Presumed still an agent. Keith E. Hook, Border Patrol agent, Buffalo Sector, Oswego, New York, June 2019. Pleaded guilty to distributing, receiving, and possessing child pornography, sentenced to 6.5 years prison, U.S. District Court, Northern District of New York, 19 CR 00239, DNH. Mark De La Villa, Border Patrol agent, Buffalo Sector, Niagara Falls, New York, December 2022. There's a complaint filed by a female agent accusing De La Villa of grabbing and kissing the victim against her will on duty. This was her second sexual assault by male agents at her station. When the agency discovered that the victim was in therapy, the agency drug tested her. De La Villa was allowed to retire with full pension. Case was thrown out by a judge citing lack of timeliness in filing the complaint and that the harassment was not serious enough. U.S. District Court, Western District of New York, 22-CV-00942-WMS. He was retiring at the time. It was just a retirement party, and there was like this big argument between her, the victim, and the management staff where they're like, he's a good guy, he's retiring, cut this shit out, kind of thing. And so it just ended up going nowhere and ended up just being an allegation against De La Villa, and he retired and he has his pension. He's fine. Salvador Contreras, Border Patrol agent, Del Rio Sector, Cotulla, Texas, March 2017, charged with enticing and coercion of a minor to engage in sexual acts when he drove from Del Rio, Texas to Cotulla, Texas, believing he would have sex with an 8-year-old child and a 14-year-old child. He pleaded guilty. Sentenced to 11 years in prison. U.S. District Court, Southern District of Texas, 15-CR-01410. Spencer Allen Cox, Border Patrol agent, Del Rio Sector, Bexar County, Texas, October 2021, charged with online solicitation of a 16-year-old child, sending nude photos of himself to a minor. Sentenced to $2,000 fine and probation, given, quote, deferred judgment. This is what we saw with Efren, our first guy. So this deferred judgment kind of thing, you'll see that a lot when it comes to comps. And what that means is they make them go do alcohol treatment or drug treatment or sex therapy or whatever kind of counseling. And if they go and do that, then they'll let them off without the actual sexual charge. It's presumed that he's still an agent. State of Texas, Bexar County Court, 2020-CR-8811. A lot of times when they get these charges and the judges let them get off of this, they will move them to another sector. So the Border Patrol moves around its predatory agents just like the Catholic Church does, just so you know. Vernon Lee Milliken, Border Patrol agent, Del Rio Sector, Uvalde, Texas, January 2019. He was charged with raping a 13-year-old girl for the course of 4 years, and he videotaped these rapes. He pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison, U.S. District Court, Western District of Texas, San Antonio Division, 19-CR-00099-OLG. Luis Edward Hermosillo, Border Patrol agent, El Centro Sector, Indio, California, October 2012. Charged with 10 counts of kidnapping to commit sexual assault, sexual penetration, and sexual penetration under the color of law of a 24-year-old woman as her 2 children watched. Pleaded guilty to 2 counts sexual penetration under the color of law. All other charges dropped. Sentenced to 8 years in prison. Fucker should have been sentenced to fucking 50, if not life. State of California, Riverside Superior Court, INFO-065960, and also U.S. District Court, Central District of California, 11-CV, that would be the civil violation. So that's a civil case. When it says CV, that's a civil case. When it says CR, that's a criminal case. 11-CV05046-RGK-SP. Arturo H. Asensio, Border Patrol agent out of El Centro, California. This occurred in Banning, California, May 2011. Charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and sexual battery of a migrant woman. Case dropped by the district attorney with no cause given. It's presumed he is still an agent. He said the sex was consensual. That's the argument that went back and forth, and so it was dropped. This was written by Guy McCarthy out of Patch on January 5th, 2012. Jarrett Jung, Border Patrol agent, El Centro Sector, El Centro, California, November 2010. Charged with receiving over 600 pictures of child pornography. Pleaded guilty, sentenced to 6 years in prison. U.S. District Court, Southern District of California, 10-CR-01681-WQH. I don't ever want to see, quite honestly, now that I'm putting all this out public, and I've kind of done it off and on, but like this is a video that is going to stay hopefully on Substack for a while. I really don't ever want to see you all in the media talk about another rape in the Border Patrol as if it's a one-off. Because here's all the freaking information you need. I'm sorry, I'm getting mad reading these. Abel Michael Quiroz, Border Patrol agent, El Paso Sector, Las Cruces, New Mexico, September 2014. Charged with receiving and possessing child pornography, sentenced to 2.5 years prison, U.S. District Court, District of New Mexico, 14 CR 03026 JFM. I love the fact that he's wearing an American flag t-shirt on his mugshot. Jason Christopher Davis, Supervisory Border Patrol agent, El Paso Sector, Doña Ana County, New Mexico, October 2018. Charged with receiving and possessing child pornography and taking photos of a 5-year-old child's genitalia. Fuck. Not known if this child was in custody. He was found guilty, sentenced to 15 years in prison. U.S. District Court, New Mexico, District, Doña Ana County, 18-CR-03225-WJ. Do you think I would have ever joined the Border Patrol if I knew this was going on? Hell no. Or many of the other things that are going on. Luis Ivan Estrella, Border Patrol agent, El Paso Sector, Artesia, New Mexico. That's the Border Patrol Academy during the 2000s. It's been the Border Patrol Academy. October 2006. Charged with aggravated assault of a child, indecency with a child, performing oral sex on a 14-year-old child of another agent. So he's assaulting another agent's child. Like I said, this is not uncommon. And touching her genitals while teaching at the Border Patrol Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. Guilty plea to child sexual assault, State of Texas, 409th District Court, 2006-0D-04732 and 2006-06757. Luis Lozada, Border Patrol agent, El Paso Sector, El Paso, Texas, November 2015. Charged with repeated sexual assault of a child, sentenced to 6 years in prison, Texas State Court, El Paso County, 20150D02322. This is a situation we see a lot of. You'll see more of these as we go through them. Noe Almon, Border Patrol agent, El Paso Sector, August 2005, charged with harboring and inducing 3 undocumented nieces to live with him. Now, he stated that he did this because he was trying to take care of him. There was insinuations that there was sexual assault, but there was never anything proven. So this man essentially had nieces that he was, according to him, taking care of. Yes, they were undocumented. Yes, he knew it. That is a big time problem in the Border Patrol. I would say usually it is they have girlfriends that they hide, that they are aware are undocumented. In this case, these are nieces. I have seen another agent um, hide his father. It's just very sad that they can't see, like, you're perpetuating this with your job, and even you think it's ridiculous because, you're obviously harboring undocumented people. So, sentenced to 1 year in prison. U.S. District Court, Western Texas, El Paso Division 04-CR-01509-KC. Orlando Gomez. I say it like that because Orlando was originally a Campo agent and he was my trainee. Ah, I always knew he was kind of a thug. I never thought he would last too long, but he lasted longer than I did. And that kind of tells you that's because that's the culture of the Border Patrol. People like me don't last, and people like him do because they protect people like him. Border Patrol agent, El Paso sector, Las Cruces, New Mexico, October 2016. So he got transferred after being at Campo for quite a while. Charged with 3 counts of criminal sexual penetration of a child and 1 count of forced sexual contact with a child. Sentenced to 2 years and 2 months in prison. State of New Mexico, Las Cruces Magistrate, M-14-FR-2016-00644. Pablo Rosario III, Border Patrol agent, El Paso sector, El Paso, Texas, March 2007. He was charged with molestation under the color of law, making false statements to federal agents, and releasing 3 migrants without processing. That means he sexually assaulted them and then sent them back across the border without processing them to hide the fact that they were in his custody. He pleaded guilty in November 2007, sentenced to only 1 year in prison. You know why? Because they're migrants. If it had been a white woman, you bet your ass he would be in a lot more trouble. U.S. District Court, Western Texas, El Paso Division 06-CR-00101-KC. Renee E. Samaniego. I have a hard time with that last name. Border Patrol agent, El Paso sector, instructor at Artesia, New Mexico, U.S. Border Patrol Academy, January 2009. Arrested and charged with felony criminal sexual penetration, a misdemeanor criminal sexual penetration, and giving alcohol to a minor in 2008. So the first charge is a felony. The second charge of criminal sexual penetration is a misdemeanor. And then the third charge is alcohol to a minor. This is because the victim was a 20-year-old female Border Patrol trainee in 2008. So she was under the age of 21 in that state, required to be 21 to drink. All charges were dropped. All the sexual assault charges were dropped in exchange for a guilty plea to giving a minor alcohol. It's presumed that he is still an agent. New Mexico State Court, Carlsbad District, D503-CR-2009-00061. It's not known why those charges were dropped. It's not known if the victim decided not to go forward. It's not known if there was not enough evidence. So the allegations of sexual assault were not sustained for unknown reasons, and he was only charged with the alcohol to a minor. This next one is, we don't know the name of this person, and I added this because Erin Siegel McIntyre and I have known each other for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years now. And when she came out with this one, I didn't know about this one. Like I said, these are only from 2000 and on. And when they first let female Border Patrol agents in the Border Patrol, that was 1975. The first class of female agents, or the first class that allowed female agents, had 6 female trainees in it. And one of them, our first Latina in the United States Border Patrol, was Ernestina Lopez. And you can find all this on a podcast by Reveal News. So if you type in Reveal News and then type in the Fierce 5%, you're going to get the history of how they've been raping female agents. Not every female agents go through this. Sometimes it's not a full-on rape. Sometimes it's a sexual assault um, um, that starts and doesn't finish. Sometimes it's a sexual assault without, I would say, penetration or whatever. And they did this to Ernestina. A classmate raped her, and in the middle of the night, the chief's wife, or the next morning when she filed a complaint, the chief's wife was sent to pick her up in her bags, and they sent her back to LA and they fired her for complaining. And so when you wonder why I didn't complain, I did complain, but I wouldn't file a formal complaint. And that's the only reason why I kept my job. And because there were some good agents, I'm not saying all agents are raping, but the agents that do get away with it, they get away with it. And so Ernestina Lopez was the first female agent, the first Latina agent, and they raped her. 20 years later, in 1995, they did it to me. And then now we look at this. So this is why I put this in. Name withheld, Border Patrol agent, El Paso sector, Artesia, New Mexico. So the agent is an instructor. September 15th, 2019. Eddy County Dispatch received a call from Supervisory Border Patrol agent Claude Claflin that the female trainee had been allegedly raped by a male instructing Border Patrol agent. When police arrived, the victim was surrounded by Border Patrol agents, as if she was like a dog or some kind of criminal. She, of course, refused to press charges for fear of retaliation. Her words were to the police officer, they sent a female police officer, were, um, he's an instructor. They're never going to believe me, something to that effect. And this came from Aaron Siegel McIntyre. He's an agent. No one will believe me over him. Well, I'm sorry, that's exactly what he said. And that is in a Mother Jones article, their September plus October 2024 issue. It is presumed that he is still an agent. David Villarreal. It's a poor roll of the R. David Villarreal. That's a little better. Border Patrol agent, Laredo Sector, Laredo, Texas, October 2021, charged with 3 counts of sexual assault for demanding a woman have sex with him or he would deport her. That is extremely common. 1 count to tamper with evidence. 1 count of tampering with evidence is what I should have written. And also oppression under the color of law. So he's doing this in uniform. Sentenced to 2 years prison, Texas State Court, the 111th District, 2019, CR E001099D2. Donato Joel Cantu, Border Patrol agent, Laredo Sector, Laredo, Texas, October 2019, charged with soliciting a prostitute multiple times. She was an undocumented migrant and, in fact, transgender. Affidavits filed by the FBI and DHS OIG state that the case was dropped. No record exists online. It is presumed that he is still an agent. So that was an allegation, and they decided to drop it and not do anything with it. So I don't have a court case here, but I have a media article by Cesar Rodriguez. Affidavit reveals further details after a Laredo BP agent charged with soliciting prostitute. That was out of the Laredo Morning Times, October 15, 2019. Jose Jalamos, Border Patrol agent, Laredo Sector, Hebronville, Texas, October 2014, pleaded no contest to sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. As a Border Patrol agent in 1996, he had married a 16-year-old girl. CBP claimed to have investigated the relationship in 2006. Well, okay. 10 years after he had married her. So I don't know what you're going to do about that. Uh, just bullshit. He was a registered sex offender as an agent, but was not fired until March of 2015. Oh, come on. No online records available. So this is, it must have been a small court that this was done in. The article that I got this information from was entitled Alleged Sexual Crimes of Customs and Border Patrol Agents, put out May 4th, 2015 by CBS News. William Ferrone, Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, Laredo Sector, Laredo, Texas. It did include this 1995 charge because I think it's interesting. I don't know if he was an agent at the time, but he has an existing April 1995 charge with making terroristic threats. That is out of the state of Texas, County Law Court number 2, 1995 CR B000363L2, and the disposition on that was unknown. So it could have been that he was an agent during the time. It could have been that he wasn't, and that it could have been dropped. It doesn't say what happened to it on the records. But in January 2004, he was charged with soliciting sexual favors from a migrant woman he had arrested. Those charges were dropped after he offered to resign. That information comes out of an article entitled U.S. Border Patrol Supervisor to Face Oppression Charge from the Associated Press on January 9th, 2004. So he's no longer an agent, but in August 2006, he gets arrested by his former fellow agents for smuggling migrants. This guy's just a real, oof. So it's a good thing that he was forced to resign because he would keep committing crimes. That article is entitled Ex-Border Patrol Agent is Arrested. A lot of times when this is the one case where when they say ex-Border Patrol agent, it was actually an ex-Border Patrol agent. Usually when they say former Border Patrol agent or ex-Border Patrol agent, the crime was committed as they were agents. And they resign before the charges are brought, and that forces the press to then say a former agent. So a lot of times you think they're talking about some guy who used to be a Border Patrol agent and then now has been caught raping or sexually assaulting or whatever. But what it actually means is at the time that the article was written, he's no longer a Border Patrol agent. You see how that works? So this is the one case where in this August 2006, he was not an agent when he committed the crime, but I feel it's relevant to show how they just keep going on and on and on. There's a lot of, I mean, I don't want to do this for like all the arrests for the corruption and all the other things that they get charged for. This is just for sex crimes because that list is way bigger than this list. And I just don't want to spend the time doing it. Michael Settle. This is recent. Border Patrol agent out of Miami sector, Spanish Fort, Alabama. July 2024. So this is just a sad story. This agent breaks into his ex-wife's home and he beats her and he chases her into the front yard and then he pulls his gun and he shoots and kills her. Then he kills himself. They were like, we've never had any calls to this agent's house, the sheriffs. We don't know, no domestic violence. We don't know what the deal is. But when you talk to the family, and when reporters talk to the family, they're like, oh yeah. And the problem is when wives of agents, when spouses of agents call in, the police know the agents. They all live and work in the same areas. And they generally tell the woman, do you really want to do this to your husband or spouse? Do you really want them to go through this? Because if they do, then, you know, how's he going to help you pay for if you get divorced? How are you going to pay for the kids? How are you going to pay for all this other stuff? And if you do this to the agent, well, then, you know, you're just hurting them. It's still, they make it really hard. So just because your local police may say, we've not had any domestic calls to this house before, it does not mean it's true. That does not mean it's true. It just means that they have no record that they've gone to the house. So the family reported a history of domestic violence. His wife, Carrie Settle, was a career public educator for the Mobile County Public Schools. This article, because they're both deceased, obviously there are no charges, came from John Sharp. It was entitled Border Patrol Agent Kills Career Educator in Spanish Fort, Murder Suicide. That's out of al.com, that's alabama.com news, July 1st, 2024. Nicholas Bolden, Border Patrol Agent, New Orleans Sector, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, July 2013. In March 2012, Bolden downloaded child pornography from a Russian website. It's just idiotic. Child pornography was found on several different devices used by Bolden, including his government-issued laptop. Pleaded guilty and sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, U.S. District Court, Southern District of Mississippi, 13-CR-00033-HSO-RHW. Carlos Rodriguez Morales, Border Patrol Agent, Laredo Sector, Laredo, Texas, August 2023. Arrested and charged with sexual assault of a 17-year-old girl who he admitted he was hired to smuggle into the U.S. So he smuggles her into the U.S. and then he decides to sexually assault her. He denied the sexual assault and claimed that the child was making false allegations to obtain a U visa. A U visa is a visa that an undocumented person, or even a documented person, quite frankly, can, if you're the victim of a violent crime, because you have to testify and you have to deal with the trauma and all that other stuff, there is this thing called a U visa that you can get. They're not easy to get. I think there's a long list. But so she was able to get a U visa so that she could address the allegations that she was making against Carlos Rodriguez Morales. He was convicted by a jury and sentenced to 18 years of prison. State Court of Texas 406th District Court, 2022, CR 0, looks like CRO 000548D4. He did have an appeal, number 13-23-00337-CR, and it was denied. If they have appeals and they're approved, then I will say it, or I won't, or they will not be included in this list. Ernesto Padron, this guy, he likes to follow everything I do. I can see when he's on my website, and I can see when it's really weird. Well, I don't have the website anymore, but he used to follow me a lot on the website because he wanted to know what I was saying about him. He's a Border Patrol agent out of Rio Grande Valley Sector, Brownsville, Texas, October 2010. So in 2008, he was arrested by the FBI for allegedly possessing child pornography. He resigned in 2010, so he fought it for a couple of years. But then the Cameron County District Attorney failed to bring the case to trial in a timely manner, and so the case ended up being dismissed for statute of limitation violation, or it reached the statute of limitations, let me say, in 2013. So the Cameron County District Attorney just sat on the case for 3 years, refusing to file charges and just let the time run out. That motherfucker should be arrested too. This 2008 case I learned about from an article from The Monitor, and it was entitled Border Patrol Agent Held on Child Porn Charges, October 23, 2010. All this research, by the way, is done by me. So I have to research this and get the documents, and so this costs me a fair amount of money. That's one of the reasons why I went to Substack. So if you're so inclined and want me to keep finding this stuff, please consider subscribing, becoming a paid subscriber to my Substack. In June 2018, he was found working for Southwest Key Immigration Child Detention Center under the Trump administration. The center stated that because he had not been convicted, they were not responsible. He was laid off in 2017 with hundreds of other employees. Well, truth is if he's not been convicted, there's not much they can do, quite honestly. So When the Cameron County District Attorney decided not to do their job, that enabled this man to then go and get a job at an immigration child detention center. That article was from Travis Geddes. That's from Raw Story, June 21, 2018. His location and his employment are not currently known. This is probably one of the most egregious and horrible stories I have ever read. Esteban Manzanares, Border Patrol agent, Rio Grande Valley Sector, Mission, Texas, March 2014. A Honduran woman and her two daughters surrendered to Manzanares when he raped the mother and slashed her wrist. He then sexually assaulted her 14-year-old daughter. After trying to break her neck, she passed out, and he took the other young woman in his government ride back to his station and managed to get her in his vehicle without anybody knowing, and then took her to his apartment or home, whatever it was. And then he sexually assaulted her. When the mother and daughter were found, he did not kill them. He tried to, but they survived. Border Patrol and FBI went to his home. That is when Manzanares killed himself before agents could enter. That article, because he's dead, obviously there's no case. That article comes out of the Monitor once again. It's from Ildefonso Ortiz. And there's a couple other people that wrote it, and it's called Agent Identified After Sex Assaults, Suicide, March 14th, 2014. So I have on here note, the reason why the FBI, so it's like, why is the FBI involved in this all of a sudden? Like, because this was like, as it was happening, they find the women and they're like, oh, I took my daughter and this and that. And they realize, oh shit, he came in and he took off. And nobody saw him. So they go to his house. But yet, why is FBI with him? Because FBI develops cases. They don't respond in the moment. And that's kind of weird. So the reason why the FBI were involved is because he was already under investigation for assaulting another woman. And the first time he did this, they don't say in the report that he sexually assaulted her. It's an assumption on my part that he sexually assaulted her on the first case. What happened, according to report, and it's important to note that those reports will never contain truth. They only contain cover-ups for the chiefs. So it is written as if Manzanares arrests this migrant woman and he puts her in the back of the truck, but he fails to close the gate, the cage inside the vehicle completely, and she escapes and runs south. That's his story. And it's screaming, no, I sexually assaulted her, and then let her go, and she ran back south, because we know what this guy is now. And I have never seen anybody investigated for a migrant escaping their custody. I've never seen that. So it suggests that more was going on there. Of course, there's no criminal charges because the man is dead. So the victims end up filing a civil suit against the Border Patrol. And it was dismissed by the federal court because they stated that Manzanares was not acting within his employment authorities, and therefore the agency was not responsible. They got zero money out of this. Nothing. Because essentially the court says, well, he's not trained to rape. Just fuck. But the fact that he has this prior incident suggests that they knew what was going on, and the agency should have fucking paid. U.S. District Court, Southern District of Texas, McAllen Division, 15-CV-00552. We are a little more than halfway through. Francisco Villanueva, Border Patrol Agent, Rio Grande Valley, Brownsville, Texas, February 2009. Arrested in 2009 for sexual relations with a 14-year-old girl. Victim's family had been friends with Villanueva for years, When the girl came forward with allegations after her sisters had discovered her diary recounting the abuse, no criminal or civil charges were ever found. So this is an allegation. It should be assumed that he is still an agent, I would assume, since I cannot find any charges. This is once again out of the Monitor. Sheriff's deputies arrest agent charging him with abusing a minor, and that was from February 28th, 2009. Assume still an agent. Israel Gutierrez Jr., Border Patrol agent, Rio Grande Valley Sector, Brownsville, Texas, August 2013. Arrested in 2013 for sexually abusing a 15-year-old girl, charged with 3 counts. Indicted on October 2013. Prosecutors claimed he sexually assaulted a different girl in 2012 who was 14 years old. No criminal or civil charges found. The article I got that from is from Action 4 News, entitled Man Arrested for Sexually Abusing Teenage Girl in Brownsville from August 1st, 2013. He is presumed to still be an agent, as his LinkedIn profile shows. Maybe he's in LA. Jason Edward Gamboa, Border Patrol agent, Rio Grande Valley Sector, Brownsville, Texas, May 2012. He was charged with aggravated child sexual assault of a relative. He pleaded no contest to a lesser charge of injury to a child. The original charges of aggravated child sexual assault were dropped in exchange for a plea. In 2018, Texas courts denied his request to expunge the original charges from his record. This comes from the 13th District of Texas Court of Appeals, 13-16-00275-CV. The criminal case was out of the state of Texas, Cameron County Court, 107th District Court in 2000, number 2012-DCR 02921. He was sentenced to community supervision for 3 years. Terminated early for good behavior. It is presumed that he is still an agent. Joe Nunez, Border Patrol agent, Rio Grande Valley, Mission, Texas, February 2007. Charged with child sexual assault of 2 relatives. The abuse started when they were 9 and 10 years old, lasting for 5 years. Charges were out of Mission, Texas Municipal Court, which denies access to court cases online. Unknown disposition, unknown if he is still an agent. Information comes from Jeremy Roebuck, Jeremy Roebuck, entitled Former BP Agent Charged, out of the Monitor, February 13th, 2007. Again, note that it says the title former BP agent charged. Note, when media states former agent, this means that the agent resigned before the arrest, but the alleged crime was committed as an agent. Oh, this one's really interesting. Philip Westerman, Border Patrol agent, Rio Grande Valley, Corpus Christi, Texas, May 2013. He was charged with sexually assaulting a woman in the hospital that he was assigned to guard. The migrant victim alleged that he raped her while she was restrained with leg restraints. Westerman claimed that the victim tried to have sex with him and entice him by using her foot to touch his groin. He then claimed he did not respond to her. The grand jury failed to indict him. So these charges are alleged and were never proven. Westerman then sued the victim, claiming she injured him when she touched him with her foot against his groin, and that he was forced, because of an old injury, to then go and ejaculate into the towel that she gave investigators as proof that he raped her. So he's not denying that his stuff is in that towel. He's just denying how it got on that towel. And he's saying that, yeah, I had to masturbate, but it was because She took her foot and was massaging my groin. She's the one that came on to me and did this. And I have an old injury. And if I don't take care of myself, then it becomes extremely painful. So apparently his blue balls are extremely painful. That's his argument. I mean, he seems to have gotten away with it. So he ends up suing, let's see, and he also sued to get his job back, but was denied. U.S. District Court, Southern District of Texas, 16-CV-00094. All criminal and civil charges were dropped. The victim was forced to drop her civil case because Border Patrol deported her. U.S. Court, Southern District of Texas, Brownsville Division, 14CV-00133. That information came from Christian Hernandez, former BP agent, files lawsuit after sexual assault charges failed to stick in court. And that comes from the Monitor, March 3rd, 2016. Roy Ramirez Jr., Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, Rio Grande Valley Sector, McAllen, Texas, April 2020. He was arrested by McAllen PD and charged with forcing a female agent to perform oral copulation. He was indicted by a grand jury in Hidalgo County, Texas, in July of 2021. In January of 2023, charges were dismissed because court documents stated, quote, no victim available. It is not known if the victim still works for the Border Patrol or if they still are under the supervisor's direction. We have no idea what happened to her. I don't know how a female Border Patrol agent just disappears. I mean, I don't even know if she's still alive. I don't know who she is. So, and the Border Patrol would not comment on this, of course. This came out of, so the court documents are from Texas State Court, the 139th District, CR 3608-21-C. It is presumed that he is still a supervisor. Scott Anthony Sullivan, Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, Rio Grande Valley Sector, Falfurrias, Texas, September 2005. Charged with sexual assault of a woman and groping another during a pat-down search that occurred in 2003. Victim was a 23-year-old U.S. citizen who Sullivan took custody of and transported her from the Falfurrias checkpoint to a bus station. But that's what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to take her to a bus station because, so what happened is she got secondaried at the Falfurrias checkpoint. It's a very famous checkpoint. And they took her off the bus that she was on. And when that happens, and then they find out later, oh shit, she's an actual U.S. citizen, she was telling the truth, then you have to take her to the bus station so she can catch another bus. So he offered to take her to the bus station, but instead he took her to a hotel. And he raped her 3 times over the course of the night. And then he took her to the bus station when he was done. In 2011, he was finally, so that's how long it took. The charges and the occurrence of the sexual assaults happened in 2003. It takes 9 years until he's finally sentenced to 15 and a half years in prison. Ay, ay, ay. And that's not even during COVID. That's before COVID. U.S. District Court, Southern District of Texas, McAllen Division 05-CR-00792. Armando Gonzalez. If you've read my book, you know Armando was really close with me. I remember running into him somewhere around 2008, 2009. I was already out of the patrol, and I ran into him at Grossmont Center Starbucks one morning on my way to work. And he told me he was supervisory border patrol agent of the critical incident teams, which are illegal and cover-up teams. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah. And I go, you know those like cover-up teams, right? He's like, oh, no, you know, this and that. My understanding is that Armando had had some allegations in the past from female agents. And it really makes me sad because if you read it, and the reason why I put him in the book, and him and I still talk from time to time, but the reason why I put it in the book is because I thought he was one of the good guys. And I kind of feel like I don't think I was wrong about him. I think he was one of the good guys. And then I think for some of these guys and women, they end up coming in here, coming in the Border Patrol, with honor first and all this other stuff. Just like we all do. And then you realize it's bullshit and you realize it's all lies and you realize this and that. Because the people who are chosen for critical incident teams, they're people who are compromised. Let's put it that way. So Armando now, I think he's a born again Christian. I think he's speaking about his fall and stuff like that. So um, it's just really a sad story for me. I really, he was just really one of the great guys. So at any rate, Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, San Diego Sector, Critical Incident Team Supervisor, as I said, that's the illegal cover-up team out of San Diego, California. Spent his whole time in San Diego. And that was March 2015. So in 2015, we would have had 20 years in. So I don't know if he got his pension or not. I know that the current commissioner of CBP, Rodney Scott, was then the chief of Armando. He was actually Armando's boss for a while. I'm not sure if he was his boss during this time, but him and Armando, let's just say they did a lot of cover-ups together. And one of them was the Anastasio Hernandez Rojas case, and then another one was the Valeria Monique Touchkeen Alvarado case. But those are stories for another time. He was the supervisor in charge, blah, blah, blah. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to voyeurism and lying to law enforcement officials for hiding a camera in the sector women's bathroom and then publishing the videos online. He managed to get female agents that were on his staff on the critical incident team. He managed to get the entire sector janitor staff, the women working on there on video. He managed to get an FBI agent on there. And in her deposition, in her his affidavit or deposition online on Pacer, she talks about how Armando's boss, former Chief Scott, and all his bosses there at Sector knew what he was doing, and everybody in critical incident team knew that they could get away with crimes just as long as they kept it quiet. And that's exactly how it's done. So what Chief Scott did was he ended up, and other chiefs, they ended up dragging out the investigation and not allowing him to plead just yet. And so that allowed him to get rid of a fair amount of evidence. And then he took the fall. He took the fall for everybody. And he was allowed to plea in 2015. And he only got 21 months in jail, probably did a year at the most, a year and a day. And his court case is out of U.S. Court, California Southern District, San Diego County, 15-CR-0806-BEN. The victims did sue the Border Patrol. And because he said he was doing it because he was pretty sure that the female agent working for him in the critical incident team was abusing drugs, and he was trying to catch her abusing drugs. Completely outside of his jurisdiction. He did not have the right to do that. He had the right to report it to his bosses, and then they figure out how they're going to handle it, like, do a drug test on her. That's how you would do it. You would just assign her to get a drug test, quite frankly, if you had that suspicion. But no, he decided to put a camera in the bathroom And then he was uploading these images and I don't know if he was making money off of it, but he was uploading these images and sharing them online. Um, though victims won their settlements, at least the female agents did, I know, and the FBI agent, I believe, did as well. And I think their settlements were somewhere around $6 million and stuff. But they couldn't sue the Border Patrol because they're saying, oh, that's outside his authorities. He's not supposed to be doing that. And they ended up suing him. And of course, they're not allowed to touch his pension. They're not allowed to touch a lot of things. They're not going to get anything about that. Erin Siegel McIntyre on the Reveal News podcast, The Fierce 5%, she talks about this case. So if you want to hear more about it, if you want to hear one of the victims talk anonymously, go listen to it. So Danielle Alfredo Spear, Border Patrol agent, San Diego sector. 2015, Spear was found guilty in 2016 for engaging in sex acts with a child and producing child pornography. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Superior Court of California, San Diego County, SCD 264978. Juan Prischker. I was involved with this because I knew the victim and was trying to get the San Diego County Sheriffs to press charges. And they drug it out and drug it out, but then something wonderful happened. And you'll find out what it is in just a second. He's a Border Patrol agent out of San Diego sector, Boulevard, California. This event occurred in October 2024. It's still ongoing right now in the San Diego courts. That is an actual picture of Prischker. That's not an anonymous one. There's some online of his face, but I try not to use those without giving credit to the people who took them. This is from a video. Prischker volunteered every shift for transporting women and children to the Boulevard station from the outdoor Jacumba Asylum camp in 2024. The reason why he volunteered for this, as you can see in the picture from the side, he's a big boy. He's well over 300 pounds. He's very tall, over 6 feet tall. He's so out of shape he cannot perform duties of a Border Patrol agent. So as I said, when you all say, these people can't be Border Patrol agents, when you see them kidnapping people because they're fat, Juan Prischker, Border Patrol agent, over 300 pounds easily. So he was charged with sexual battery on a volunteer in October 2024, a volunteer who was working in the camp, and he was charged with false imprisonment as well as 4 counts of distributing obscene material. So it was discovered through the court filings that he had a prior accusation of sexual assault from a migrant woman in his custody in 2022. And he also was charged with a physical restraint, or the allegation, alleged physical restraint, and also that an accomplice, meaning another agent who was not identified, took part in this sexual assault on the migrant with him. And nothing was ever charged of that, but we only learned about it because of the charges brought in October 2024 for the volunteer in the camp. So after he allegedly sexually assaulted the volunteer in the camp, it's weeks later, and I think even months later, quite honestly, trying to get the media to cover this, and they won't cover it for whatever reason. So all of a sudden he shows up on YouTube's Danny Mullins channel. He's a content creator on YouTube, and his name is Danny Mullen. And he went out to the border, and for whatever reason, this agent happened to be tooling around. So Danny's out there getting some footage. He's out there with a porn star, attractive porn star, and a friend, and this agent's driving around out there at the camp. And he stops and he wants to talk to them. And then he's like, well, she's really pretty. Why is she so pretty? And you go, oh, well, she's a porn star. And then, boy, that man is out of that vehicle faster than he's probably ever moved in probably the last 10 years. So then he whips out his penis to show it to her and to them. And they have all this on film. And it's on YouTube. This is the guy that has alleged sexual assault allegations, and now he's on YouTube. It's just insane. So then the San Diego sheriffs were forced to press charges for what he did to the victim that was working at the camp. And as you can see, there he is driving his Border Patrol van, serial number Q84357. The Border Patrol, like always, they refuse to discuss the allegations, and the case is ongoing. So he's not been convicted yet. And of course, he's innocent until proven guilty. This picture, this is actually Rodolfo Zuniga. It's a screenshot from CBS 8 News. He was actually an agent who would appear on news shows a lot of times and represent the Border Patrol. This is not uncommon either for the agents that act as press information officers because they're attractive or whatever. It's not uncommon for them to be committing crimes, quite honestly. They love the fact that you all trust them and listen to everything they say and put it out on the media. And they love the fact that you don't know that they're perverts and committing crimes. He's a Border Patrol agent, San Diego sector, out of Imperial Beach, July 2012. Zuniga was arrested in 2012 on suspicion of stealing and selling government equipment on the internet. While searching his property, federal agents discovered nearly 400 images of child pornography. Zuniga was an Explorer advisor for the U.S. Border Patrol Youth Program mentoring high school students. Then he pleaded guilty and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. U.S. Court, Southern District of California, 12-CR-3759-8. Alejandro Covarrubias. Alejandro Covarrubias Dominguez. That's a hard one. Border Patrol agent, Tucson sector, Yurupa Valley, California. Now, if you're asking why I have Tucson sector and Yurupa Valley, California, he was stationed out of Tucson sector, but the incident occurred in Yurupa Valley, California, November 2014. He was arrested and charged with 7 felony counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, possession of child pornography, and lewd acts with a 13-year-old girl. He pleaded to 2 counts of the lewd acts with a child, and all other charges were then dropped. Sentenced to 3 years in prison, and that came from the Arizona Daily Star with an article entitled Border Agent Facing Sex Charges Resigned from November 19th, 2014. This is another rape of a female agent. This occurred after the academy. This is not uncommon. They were out playing softball and then went back to a house and had some drinks. And when she passed out, she woke up with this agent, Brian Dick, having sexually assaulted her. He's a Border Patrol agent, Tucson sector, Tucson, Arizona. And this is from January 2009. Arrested for allegedly raping a fellow female Border Patrol agent after a softball game in January 2009. He was convicted in 2010 and sentenced to 5.25 years in prison. He is already out. He owns his own business, and he is still welcome in the Tucson sector from the agents. So what happened was, as this is going to trial, Tucson Border Patrol agents and Tucson Union agents like Art Del Cueto and all those guys, they end up showing up at the court demanding that he be released and that the charges are fake. And they end up harassing her like they end up harassing any female agent who stands up and tries to get any kind of justice for her sexual assault. This was out of the Arizona Superior Court, Pima County, CR 2009-0837-001. Christopher E. Bemis, Border Patrol agent, Tucson sector, Tucson, Arizona, March 2005. Like I said, Tucson, Serape sector. Indicted March 2005 for harboring a female migrant. This is a migrant that he fell in love with. He pleaded guilty in September 2005, sentenced to probation for 2 years and a $1,000 fine. Do you think anybody else could do that? Do you think I could harbor a migrant and claim that I was in love with her? I mean, that's what they're telling people now, that they're going to arrest your families. If one person in your family is undocumented, they're going to take everything, and they're going to arrest everybody for harboring that quote, undocumented or illegal alien, however they want to say it. But when a Border Patrol agent does it, they get probation and they get a fine a lot of times, or they get a very light sentence. This information comes from U.S. District Court, District of Arizona, 05-CR-00453-FRZ-BPV. We're getting there. Dennis Johnson, Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, Tucson Sector, Tucson, Arizona, September 2000. Charged with kidnapping and sexual assault of a female migrant. He was found guilty and sentenced to 7 years in prison. His statement was that he had a brain fart. That was his defense. He had a brain fart. U.S. District Court, District of Arizona, 01-CR-00037-RCC-2. Flavio Maldonado. Flavio, that's a cool name. Border Patrol Agent, Tucson Sector, Sahuarita. I always have a hard time with that. Sahuarita, Arizona. That's right outside Tucson, South Tucson. June 2009. Charged with molesting a 13-year-old girl and providing pornography to a 10-year-old boy. He pleaded to the felony pornography charge, and then the judge dropped the sexual assault charge. He was sentenced to 4 years probation because the mother of the victim said that she recanted her statement. So he got 4 years probation because he pled guilty, but not the serious charges and sentencing that he would have gotten had the sexual assault charge not been dropped and had the mother not recanted her statement. Arizona State Court, Pima County Superior, S-1009-CR-2009-1990. Could still be an agent too, I don't know. Kyle Rothka, Supervisory Border Patrol Agent, Tucson Sector, Ajo, Arizona, October 2017. Rothka was arrested in 2017 for felony lewd and lascivious acts with a child. He was allowed to plead no contest to, quote, unlawful sexual intercourse, which is a misdemeanor, not a felony. He was then sentenced to 3 years probation and did not have to register as a sex offender. Arizona State Court, Superior Court of Arizona, Ajo County, J-1003-EX-2017-000007. Kyle Richard Edwards, Border Patrol Agent, Tucson Sector, Tucson, Arizona, April 2016. Charged with 10 counts of possession and distribution of child pornography, where the victims were ages 0 to 5 years of age. What the fuck? Pleaded guilty in March 2021 to one fucking charge. Sentenced to 6 months with credit for time served and a $5,000 fine. Honor first, motherfuckers. U.S. District Court, District of Arizona, 19-CR-001-84-JGZ-LCK. God damn. Matthew Joseph Hemmer, Border Patrol Agent, Tucson Sector, out of Nogales, Arizona, August 2000. Charged with sexually abusing 3 women in custody by funneling them while searching for weapons and and he was charged with kidnapping as well. He deported all the migrants in a group except for one woman, who he then took to a remote location to sexually abuse again. These charges were in the Arizona State Court, Santa Cruz Superior, S-1200-CR. Looks like 200-00153. But then that case was dropped and moved into the federal U.S. District Court. So then he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault without the sexual context. So they're allowing him to plead to a different type of crime that will not require him to register as a sex offender. This is done so much in the Border Patrol, it's not even funny. He ends up sentenced to 36 months probation, which was dropped to a misdemeanor upon completion of the probation. So this is something they also offer cops, is if you complete your probationary time, and that probationary time probably includes some kind of mandatory, they usually blame their predatory predilections on alcohol and drugs. And so then these judges go, okay, go to alcohol and drug treatment program. And if you complete this, then we'll drop all the assault charges. So it gets sexual assault charges, then they drop it to just regular assault charges, taking out the sexual content, and then they offer him 36 months probation as well. And then they'll drop those charges even further down to misdemeanor charges. Just unbelievable. So he just got probation. That's out of U.S. District Court, District of Arizona, 0/0-CR01469-RCC. The victim did sue the Border Patrol and they got $50,000 settlement out of it. So that's what they got out of it. It's assumed that this guy, he could still be a Border Patrol agent. We have no idea. Nicholas Peter Berner, Border Patrol agent, Tucson Sector, Tucson, Arizona, January 2016, charged with possession of over 2,500 files of child pornography depicting boys being raped and sharing those files on a network with other pedophiles. Some victims were under the age of 12. He pleaded guilty to only one count of possession of child pornography, not 2,500 counts. And he was sentenced to just under 6 years in prison. He got a higher sentence because the amount of pornography he had. He also got a higher sentence, quite frankly, because it depicts boys. And quite frankly, I mean, it shouldn't be a difference, but it is a difference. And judges will give you more time if your victims are children, and especially if they're same sex. U.S. Court, District of Arizona, 14-CR-01964-JAS-DTF. Pablo Sergio Berry, Border Patrol agent, again, Tucson Sector, Naco, Arizona, September 2005. Charged with harboring an undocumented woman for 4 years and false statements to federal officers. This is another incident where the agent has fallen in love with an undocumented woman. Who knows? Could have come from an arrest he made. The agents are constantly setting up dates with the migrants they arrest, and then they go south after work, and they don't have to go through the ports of entry because they all have keys to the gates, and they go down there and start relationships that way. So he was charged with harboring an undocumented, I said that, pleaded guilty and sentenced to 2 years probation, but only served 1 year for good behavior. So I suppose he could still be an agent. I doubt it, though, because he served a year in jail. U.S. District Court, District Court of Arizona, 05-CR-01185-RCC-HCE-1. We're almost there. Paul Adams. Oh my God, this is another one of those that is really, really, really bad. Border Patrol agent, of course, out of Tucson Sector, Bisbee, Arizona. He was arrested for raping his daughters for 7 years and putting those videos of him raping his daughters on the web. He began raping one daughter when she was just 6 months old. After being arrested, Adams killed himself. So he's arrested, and somehow the police, in their custody, he ends up killing himself. I'm not sure how that happened, so that it's hard for me to read this one, to be honest with you. I have read the whole thing, but it's been many years, and I feel like they just let him have the opportunity to kill himself, quite frankly. In all, he and his wife had 5 kids. He had confessed um, before he killed himself, when he was being interviewed, he confessed to the police that in 2007, um, he had he told his Mormon bishop that he was engaging in sexually assaulting his own children. And the Mormon bishop did not come forward about this. And this caused a big to do over there about whether or not religious leaders have the right to hide the criminal confessions of their flock. So, um, I think pretty much they decided there was nothing they could do about it. Nothing happened to the leaders of the church. But he also did confess to a Border Patrol agent, a female Border Patrol agent, who also kept that hidden, and still nothing was done about it. The children ended up being adopted out to other families. So the children as themselves, they end up being separated because of this. And me, I don't know. I don't know much about that. I can't say if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know how that works in those situations, but that is what happened to these children, just born to awful parents. And the mother ended up pleading guilty to allowing the sexual assaults to happen. So she was held accountable for this. There's no case for Paul Adams, of course, because he killed himself. Honor first. This was published by Michael Resendez. There's a couple of articles in depth about this because of the Mormon tie-in. His article is entitled 7 Years of Sex Abuse, How Mormon Officials Let It Happen, but could also be how Border Patrol agents let it happen, how the Border Patrol let it happen too, but notice willing to blame the Mormons, but not willing to hold the Border Patrol accountable. This is from the Associated Press, August 3rd, 2022. Okay, this is the last one. Thank God. Nario Mejia Gomez Jr., Border Patrol agent, Yuma Sector, Yuma, Arizona. Okay, we're finally out of Tucson. May 2024, not too long ago. He's been indicted on 4 counts for production of child pornography, 5 counts of knowingly distributing child pornography, and 1 count of knowingly possessing child pornography, as well as 1 count of possession of an unregistered firearm. This court case is ongoing. All these charges are allegations and have not been proven in court. And Mr. Mejia Gomez Jr. is innocent until proven guilty. U.S. District Court, District of Arizona, 24 CR 00783-SMB. So that's a whole lot of nastiness, isn't it? Yeah, I almost want to cry. I mean, it's not, there are predators in every organization there are. They really are. They're everywhere. Everywhere you have children, they're going to be there. Everywhere you have the victims that they're seeking, women, they're going to be there. The problem with the U.S. Border Patrol is that they cover all this stuff up. The problem is that we have judges that allow charges to be dropped, that allow agents to do deferred sentencing, meaning that they're being forced to go through, you know, alcohol treatment, drug treatment, and whatnot, promising not to do it again, blah, blah, blah. The reason why I wanted to do this right now, specifically right now, is number one, I want to get it out of the way. I wrote this, and it upsets me greatly that I entered an organization like this. And it upsets me greatly that this continues. And it upsets me greatly that, like, a lot of the latest ones you see are these really high ranking chiefs, and they get to retire before any of the allegations are even addressed. And so we're still paying their pensions and stuff. I find it devastating because I don't believe in open borders. I think ideologically it'd be great if we could get there at some point, if we see ourselves as citizens of this world and one planet, then maybe we could see it like that. But right now, we're divided into different countries and border states and all this other stuff, and we're going through this hyper militarized border. And there's a need for border patrol on our border with the way we are structured as countries and so forth. I have seen some of the things that come across that border, and they're not always good. The majority of people you arrest as a border patrol agent back in my day and today are around maybe 1% at most. It's a very small amount, end up having criminal records. And as I've said before, border patrol agents, since 2018, the staff of the border patrol, the agents have committed more violent crimes and that they admit to, that we know of, and we know it's higher than what they're admitting to. They commit as a population a higher percentage of violent crimes than the migrants that they're arresting every year since 2018. These are the agents who are in LA that are kidnapping people. These are the agents busting the windows out. These are the agents that Tom Homan is claiming are honorable, and how dare you talk about them? And Christy, no, we're all honorable. We're saving this country. They are not saving this country. They are tearing this country apart and creating a fascist state. And they are doing it with criminal agents. A lot of criminal agents. No, not everybody in the Border Patrol is a criminal agent. Not there are people still in the Border Patrol like me, though few, because they scream more for ideological issues. They have since after 9/11. But the rapists and so forth are still getting in, as you see. There's plenty who are hired with prior sexual assaults and things like that. And this isn't even everybody. I've actually left out a few. I can think of a few off the top of my head where I'm like, oh, I forgot that one. It doesn't really matter. It just gives you an idea of how bad it is. How bad it is. So, this is the norm in the Border Patrol. And these are the people in your streets. I just want you to know. I mean, because so many of you have said, who are they hiring nowadays? Well, I don't have as much evidence in the old patrol prior to 9/11, just because it wasn't reported as much. But I guarantee you it was going on probably just as much, probably. So I don't know when something's going to happen about this. I have no idea, but I'm going to keep talking.